You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Falling Skies After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Falling Skies After Show.
Hey everybody, Bing is for doing, and we are here doing another podcast. It is Falling Skies Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2, the season premiere.
Yay!
Very exciting. I am Tamara Berg. I am joined in the studio by Sofia on my right.
Hello.
By Derrial on my left.
Hello.
And by Steve way over there.
Hello.
We have Ben Bottomley as our engineer tonight. Hey,
What's up,
Ben.
man? Yes.
He's busy.
That's focused.
He's busy, he's focused, and that's a good thing. So let's get right into it. So this was 2 episodes, episodes 1 and 2, which we're going to address all kind of as one, but they were titled Worlds Apart and Shall We Gather at the River? And there was a lot going on in this episode. Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right? Am I right?
Yep, there was quite a bit.
So a couple of things that I want to talk about. First off, I want to talk about Ben, because there was, Derrial, actually, you and I were talking about it just as we were kind of waiting for commercials to go by. There was kind of a change in Ben from last season versus this.
Yeah. It seems like from the first season, he was sort of passive a little bit, and now he seems more aggressive, especially towards his brother Hal.
Yes.
He's kind of taking more charge,
Yes.
but there seems to be something off with him too. That's which it'll be interesting to see how that's revealed.
Right. And also we've found that he's very strong now.
Yeah.
He's got, and that sort of showed up at the towards the end of last season when he was doing all the jumping jacks or push-ups or something like 100 push-ups and didn't break a sweat.
Yep.
But he kind of had superpower. He looked like, you know, he had the fight with Ben and had certain other sort of superpowers, but and to this point so far they're benefiting him.
Yeah.
Right?
They are, but I think that even though it's kind of very obvious that, you know, the skitters did something to him in such a way that it's not going away and that he is in fact transforming, I think also it's showing the storyline between the two brothers. You know, Ben was the intellect or the intelligent one, and he, for lack of a better phrase, was more like Tom.
Right.
And then you have, you know, Hal, who is actually in fact more aggressive, more dominant, more sports-like, and presumably more like the mom who passed away. So I think that in some senses it's really just him growing up. Like, he's no longer a child, and yes, he's gone through things, and there may be, you know, things in his back making him do things. I'm losing my headphones. That always happens to me. But I really think, though, that the kind of the second underlying storyline is the fact that you have two brothers who don't get along and are basically fighting to be the alpha dominant, you know, adult males that they are.
That's a good point.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. I like the fact that they put this in this particular character, because you have to watch it and you go, okay, is it the needles, or is it just being the second brother and having and
The
that,
tortured
at that
middle
age,
child.
the tortured middle child and all this stuff, and now you have this when he considers himself a freak.
Yes.
And you know, so it's kind of like, so what is the change? Is it a normal kid trying to become a man, or is it the needles playing with you?
Yeah. I still think it's a
the
combination.
other cool thing, the other cool
No
thing
problem.
they've shown is this kid has superpowers.
Yeah.
Essentially. And now we're showing that his mental stability is not completely intact. So they're laying it out, and it's really fascinating.
Yeah, and and in so many of the scenes, he had sort of this melancholia about him. He would, you know, be staring, the 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah.
Remember they talked about that in the first season. Kind of had that 1,000-yard stare. Sort of seemed like there was a lot going on. He was considering things while scenes were going on around him. There was the one scene where he was, it seems to me it was with Weaver, and there was some kind of meeting going on. I have so many notes from tonight, and they asked. It was after he found the antenna. He found the antenna,
Right.
had taken the pictures,
Yes.
gone back across the river,
Right.
came back, reported back, and Jamal, who's a new character this season, asked him a couple of questions, and he seemed to answer them in a very perfunctory way, and then, sort of look off and have the stare, which was absolutely, wouldn't you? You do agree, Steve?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
he was.
That's the other thing. He's keeping secrets.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
asked him,
There's
did
something
you
going
pick up
on
any
there.
radio stuff? He
Yeah.
picked up radio signals,
Yeah,
and
he
for
heard
whatever
things.
reason.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you go back to, well, is it because he doesn't want to be thought of as a freak? He doesn't want them to say, because you've got to be thinking, his character's thinking, nobody knows. I've got to work twice as hard to be normal now.
Right.
And if I go off and say, I'm getting this stuff, Pope's the first one that's going to, take him out,
Yeah.
because you can't be outside the norm. Otherwise, you may be a tracking device.
And he knows that, but I still think that there's an element that there's some dark reveal that's going to come out.
Yeah.
Because there has to be something else going on in there. Just the way he's acting, even though that transition from being kind of like a teenager, and he's gone through things that have made him a little bit stronger, but there's still an element there that I can see, he's going to reveal something dark.
Absolutely. And, this is Steve and I talk about this a lot on dramas. This is a show that I really appreciate. They're relatively stingy with their details.
Yeah.
We know Tom's wife is dead. We know she was with Stephen Weber's character when she died, but we really don't know that much more.
That's true.
Why was she with him? I don't exactly
Right.
know. And
They were going
and
to
there's
get
something
supplies.
about it.
They
Right.
were going to get supplies
Right.
because she was a doctor, correct?
Yeah.
But there's something between, Stephen Weber and Tom, and we don't really know that. And so they're very stingy with giving out details. Here we are in season 2, we don't really know that whole
That's
story. And they're doing it now, of course, with Ben and what we don't know about him and what we're starting to reveal and what's starting to find out.
I don't know. I think that there's an aspect of the underlying storyline that interests me actually even more so than the fact that there are aliens. I think it really is, though, that even though there's a dark side that's going to be revealed, I actually don't think he's bad. I think that the decisions he's making are for the good of the resistance, because I think that if they take him out, they no longer have an inside man. And at the end of the day, not to sound cheesy, this is war. And war needs to be played on a different type of a level, and sometimes they're making decisions that are stupid, for lack of a better phrase, and I'm gonna jump ahead and jump back, but even certain decisions that Pope wants to make, I completely agree with him.
Yeah.
He's an asshole and he's a bigot and he's all these other things,
Yeah.
but the decisions he's making sometimes, it's because it's war. It's not fairies and daisies and things of this nature. So I think that I think Ben knows that he knows things that are in the best interest of his family, and he needs to keep them secret because they don't have the intellect to comprehend what he can comprehend and know what he knows.
But on the same heels of that, then it is war, and there comes a time where you have to kill this crying baby to save everyone else.
That's true.
Who's hiding.
Yeah.
Right? So it may come to the point where, he's our inside guy, but now he's too inside. Remember, the other thing he said is hate is what keeps
That's
the
his
aliens
motivator.
away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I love that, because his dad was all about, the only reason I came back, I thought that was a great line. The only reason I
Yeah.
came back
Yeah.
was because of love.
Yeah.
But I think they're layering it really nicely with Ben. I think they're stingy and they're just giving you enough, and they're like, I think it's one of those things in about 5 episodes you're gonna look back and go, oh, there it was.
Oh,
There it
right.
was. It
That
right
was
there.
the reveal.
Yeah,
Right, that we didn't
they
see.
laid
Right.
it in that one.
Well, let
That's
me
it.
ask you this. Do you guys think that Ben did accidentally shoot Tom, or did he intentionally shoot Tom?
I think it was an accident.
I think it was an accident.
I think it was 100% an accident.
Yeah. I mean, and I like how they actually showed why it happened, because
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out, I saw a skitter and suddenly Tom was there.
Right.
So for whatever that journey back was about, I did get to finally see how, what were you doing behind a skitter?
I agree. Because
Right.
if anything, before they revealed that, I actually thought, oh, then Tom has to be bad.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't make any kind of sense why he would be there at the time
Why
that
he'd
he
be there
was.
at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
At first I thought the skitter was bringing him back to reintroduce him into
Yeah.
the herd.
I do like that they went back to that to give that reveal, so we knew exactly what was
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, it was much more clear.
It
that
was a
way.
little, jarring to see that and to go 3 months later and go, wait.
I
Right.
agree.
Last we saw, he was what? 3
Hang on
months?
a
Yeah,
minute.
he was on the ship. What's going on?
Yeah. Hang on
What,
a minute.
really? That was okay.
Now, but one of the things I'm quite concerned about is Ben and his crusty skin.
He
on
might
the
need
back.
a little proactive, but
Yeah,
you know,
no. That,
Oh my God, am I the only one who didn't notice?
yeah,
Oh my
I mean,
God.
They
well, you know, it was so
they
close.
talked about it.
They did talk
They
about
talked about it. You know, in season 1, Anne was poking it and
Yeah.
sticking a scalpel in and go, "Can you feel this? How about this? How about this? How about that?" No. No.
Oh, I'm such a
No.
space cadet.
And
You
then
guys
when he
mean
took
his
off
scales.
when he took off his shirt and was showing it to his dad, it was really spreading and looking really gnarly and
Yeah.
Oh, it's getting worse?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely getting
Oh, okay.
worse.
It
Definitely
was
getting
bigger
worse.
and dry, and it was definitely getting
So
worse in the
he's
first
going
season.
through a change.
Completely.
Right, well, yeah, possibly a progression
Yeah.
Right.
of the harness thing, and I think we're really in trouble with Ben because there's only so much hate and so much will I think that he has
Yeah.
that he is going to succumb in some way, and not to already get to predictions, but his spikes glow at some point in this season,
That's true.
That
so
was
Yeah.
ridiculous. When
that
I
is
saw that.
not a good thing.
Yeah.
That is
And-
not a
And
good
even
thing.
his
If you're afraid of the
physicality, even his physicality, I think the way that he walks very stiff. And if I just started to notice it towards the second half of the second episode, he slightly hunches but strong, and that's very Skitter-like. Like their spines curve, and it was like
That's a
the
good-
first time
good
I
catch.
noticed, I was like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "This isn't good."
That's some good tracking then.
Yeah,
on
that
the
is.
other- on the,
I'll have to pay attention to that one.
I think
well,
we should-
but there was also, his challenging the older brother,
Yep.
and having to, because the older, so I guess in the command, because this is my first episode,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
in the command it is the older brother than Ben, and
then Matt.
so yeah, I don't know if that's just the older brother thing or
And
him
again,
saying I'm.
But I mean, but look, I mean, they had the interchange, regarding Matt, whether or not Matt should, know
Yep.
how to shoot
He
a
wants-
gun
right,
in the midst
exactly.
of war,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
at the end of the day, Matt saves
Saves
his
his
father.
dad. Exactly.
So
Good call.
I mean, so at the end of the day, and even what he said, as it pertains to the resistance and the military hierarchy, yes, I have to take orders from you.
Yeah.
But when we're in the real world, I don't. And I think
Right.
that's why even when they actually had the physical exchange, I think he had to assert his dominance by literally physically showing his brother, like, seriously, dude,
Right.
like I let you lead
Right.
me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he had to remind him
Right.
of that.
Right.
And
right.
I do like how they're developing Hal as this new leader. I mean, he's taken on that role very well. I mean, he's right there with them, and I like how they're positioning him to be that new leader.
It is interesting though, because Pope has got such a problem with the professor, and thinking that he's a GPS. Why is he not on Ben's case? Why isn't that the ongoing, this guy, we can't trust this guy. Why isn't anybody containing this guy? I mean, it seems like his character would be the guy to continually just be kind of a thorn in Ben's side.
He did do that a little bit
He
in
did.
season 1. And of course it's going to come back, but I think Pope just will fight with anybody he wants to
Yeah.
fight with.
They're
I
just
think it
kinda
matters
laying
on
that
how
off
he
to the
wakes
side.
up
Okay.
during the day.
But I think it's relevant because I mean at the end of the day, Pope said in earlier episodes his kids are gone, and I think that part of the amazing aspect of this show is it really is the fact of the matter is Tom is a father, and he's a father to his sons, but he's also a father to the entire resistance movement. And hello everyone, it is Father's Day, and I know for a lot of you've probably hung out with dad, did something fun. But for those of you who have not yet got a Father's Day present, it's better to get one late than not to get one at all.
Yes.
And one of the amazing things that we have here at AfterBuzz TV is, if a lot of people, when they buy gifts, it's just a lot easier to go online. I know I often go to Amazon.com. So instead of going directly to Amazon.com, what you can do is you go to AfterBuzzTV.com. Again, you go to AfterBuzzTV.com, and we have our own Amazon banner. And all you do is you click on the Amazon banner, and it takes you to the Amazon you know and love, and you can click away, and you can buy your dad, cameras. I mean, if you were Pope, I don't know if you can buy a Harley on Amazon, but basically, you can just buy your dad a gift, and you've already bought him something, buy him something again, because, dads really are amazing, as we can see evidence in the show. So again, just go to AfterBuzzTV.com, click on the Amazon banner, and they say a little hello, back to us so that we can keep doing what we do and talk Falling Skies.
Exactly. It helps us out, so please do
Little
that
pro
on
tip:
Amazon. Yeah.
Don't shoot your dad on Father's Day.
Yeah, don't shoot your dad.
That's not the best thing you want.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
And Benjamin, thanks for not shooting me on Father's Day.
You're welcome.
All right.
Okay, let's talk about Tom. So he was clear. I mean, he's the star of the show. By the way, I saw Noah Wiley last week. He sat in front of me at the theater,
Oh, cool.
over here and over there, and I had my AfterBuzz cards, and I was like, I was going to throw one at him, except that I hadn't even seen season 1 yet, so I was going to be like the stupid fan. But
That's funny.
now I'm caught up, so if I run into him again, I will be ready and prepared. So Tom gets abducted at the end of season 1, and sort of abducted is maybe not the exact right word, but pretty much abducted. And Karen brings him on the ship. And we start to see flashbacks of what happened to him while he was on that ship. He was in some sort of cage. He was tortured with something that looked like a cattle prod. Derrial, you talked about that the production values are up a little bit this season, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot more excessiveness to that scene and just to this season so far. So.
Yeah.
Where do they shoot it? Do you know? Is it back
British
It's in
Columbia.
Brit-
No, it's Vancouver.
It's
Yeah.
Vancouver.
So so a lot happening with Tom. So he goes in, he gets abducted. He sees, this was interspersed through the entire first episode. Finds a bag of $100 bills, burns
Uses
them.
it for fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
What
like
else
that.
are you going to do with
what are you
$100
gonna do
bills?
with those $100 bills?
Yeah, I just
Yep.
thought that was great.
And finds a girl whose name we never learned,
Nope.
who has a
Motorcycle girl.
motorcycle, and she loans it to him. So he's looking for the second mass. He goes through Michigan. He's all sorts of crazy places that we haven't seen before. Here's a gunfight, and then that's where we catch up to him being ultimately shot by Ben.
Right.
Can we back up just for a second?
Yeah.
Because I think that part of the skitters, the mechs, the overlords, what they're doing is definitely also psychological just as much as
Yeah.
physical
For sure.
torture.
Yeah.
Why did they let him live in the field? Like when they
Oh,
let
yeah.
him off,
Yeah.
and they let him off with at least 20 other people. One of the individuals was a woman who was from the second Vermont, or obviously the Vermont, resistance movement. And presumably it's not like he was ducking and diving that amazingly that he should have survived.
No, he was very much
they
chosen.
were not going to
He
kill
was
him.
chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which that's my question is, was that part of the Overlord plan, or was that just that Skitter telling the mech, no, not that guy?
I think it's part of the Overlord. I think it's a bigger plan.
Well, we know later
Yeah.
that he was implanted.
Right.
Right.
With a parasite.
Right.
So that must have been at least part of it. They let him go because he was implanted as a parasite. They were going to use him as a mole
Right.
and find out
all
what the
the
second mass
information.
was doing.
Yep.
Now that parasite was able to leave and go back to its keeper. So it does beg the question: was that parasite kind of like, I'm ready to come out? I mean, it's just it was kind of weird, because it made
you
itself
are-
known.
I
true.
totally agree.
But then I'm thinking, well, then we probably could have left anytime it wanted to. So again, I don't know if that was an intentional thing for it to go, or if they caught it and let it go.
I think it could be both. I mean, because think about when it showed itself. It showed itself because basically he was willing to die if, in fact, he exhibited any traits that were, against the resistance.
Right.
And so presumably if this parasite can actually, read his wavelengths,
Right.
he literally was like, okay, wait, this one is not a good zombie. Like, we may need to, get some information to our higher ups and keep going.
And it's a flip coin. It's a flip side of the coin to Ben, which is Tom's selflessness of, shoot me if I'm harming every.
Right.
Ben's like, I'm so full of hate, they can't get close to me.
Right.
Yeah,
So
interesting counterpoint between the father and son.
It's a great counterpoint.
And I think it has a lot to do with maturity, with being a father, and not, as opposed to Ben, who's just a kid. Because, Hal is 16, 17
He's
now?
supposed to be 16,
16 or 17
Right.
now. So Ben's 14 or 15 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right at that
14
point
or
where-
15-year-olds don't know anything.
So
Mr. Bottomley, Jr.
he's like that.
I can't
That
jump
was
on
a
that.
very
Even
specific
though, even
message.
though I'm
Whatever,
nowhere
lady.
close to 15, I'm not jumping on that bandwagon.
Yeah, I'm staying out of that one.
Staying out of that
Whatever,
one, too.
lady.
But so what the other thing that was the meeting that he had with
Yes,
the alien.
yeah.
I thought was, boy, that's two ways of looking at the same issue. I mean,
true, yeah.
she was seeing it as, look, we're going to give you a reservation.
Right.
And they're saying, no, those are death camps. And she's like, well, then you guys did it. We didn't come up with this concept.
Right.
I mean, you know, maybe in 150 years you can build a casino, but you know,
Yeah.
we're starting off here.
Right, right. Yeah, well, we were kind of going to get into that a little bit later.
Oh,
but
well, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, so but
Steve.
Sorry.
So Steve just totally wrecked our third topic. But you know, it's what he does.
Not totally.
But so talking about the parasite in his eye.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say that was the grossest thing I've seen.
That was nasty. Let me
I,
tell you.
They
well,
did a good job.
I kind of saw because I was looking at it like this.
No, they did a good job of him with the
Even the way it was
feet and
moving
the-
around
and
and
the way they did.
people, yeah.
And when they just got the tail and you go, geez, how big is this thing going to be?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah, that was a good job.
It
And
kinda-
how they, you know, they had the contact lens on and the old bruised eye
The
thing
bruised
after.
eye.
Yes, yes. What was the Mulder and Scully show?
X-Files.
X-Files. It kind of reminded me of the black oil that went over people's eyes in
Oh,
X-Files.
yeah,
Do you
yeah,
remember
that's
that?
true, yeah.
That was
completely
what it made me
remember
think.
that.
Oh,
I loved X-Files.
Yeah, it was pretty nasty.
way
I love how it
grosser,
was
though.
crawling on the character Lourdes, her hair, and she
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize. And then I thought it was going to go a different route than what it did. I was sure it was going to be in her ear, you know,
Yeah.
something crazy. But the way it just flew off like that, I was like, man, this
But
Uh-huh.
this is my thing, and it actually is starting to irk me.
Okay. All
No,
right.
you have an alien race that comes down and basically demolishes you, right?
Okay.
And up until this point, we can go to the moon, maybe, and maybe put up some satellites. So
Right.
they are obviously far superior. Why do we keep underestimating them? You pull a parasite out of a man's eye after he has been abducted by aliens, let loose without a harness, which is something we're unaware of, when he then is the only one who presumably has the intelligence to tell you, destroy it, you don't destroy it.
Right.
Like, it's like they keep it's like they're like, we have to, you know, keep the human race going, but we're not learning. Like,
Right.
you need to start learning, and you need to start respecting their intelligence level is far superior to yours. So utilize the fact that you have an intelligent person. Like, I think that's why Tom is such an amazing second, because his background isn't military.
Right.
It's intelligence, and he knows where we've gone wrong before, and he knows not to underestimate his enemy, which they continue to do again and again
That's
and
true.
again.
No, it's a good
Except
point.
Pope.
Well, I completely agree with you.
Pope
I
is-
completely
he's-
agree with you.
He's completely on your page. He's
Yeah.
like going, "Are you kidding? Just Pope. If he even gets a whiff, he's like, kill it, get it out of here."
Yeah.
You know? And that was the thing with Tom. He kept like, you know, he doesn't cross the bridge with us, and they had the
Right.
whole,
Yeah.
you know, Mexican standoff thing. And,
Yep. Yep.
And I gotta agree with him. And Tom was saying, you know, I don't know if I'm safe.
Right. I don't trust myself.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
shouldn't trust me.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, yeah.
Now he wasn't as selfless to say, you know, put one in the back of my head, but you know, he locked himself up.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too, just because of the fact the way that they have him at the end fighting the skitter. You know, how he just jumped on the truck and was fighting the
Yep.
skitter. He became like this badass. You know, so I like how they're developing his character along the way as well, as kind of creating and changing him because of his experiences that he's had on the ship with the skitters. So.
Matt was a little bit of a badass there at the end too.
Matt was a
Yeah.
badass.
Totally a badass.
Matt was
Well,
a
and it
badass.
was that terrible situation where your dad tells you to do something and then your dad contradicts himself.
Exactly.
And what am I supposed to do? Is this a test? Wait,
Yeah,
wait.
yeah,
Am
yeah.
I going to get grounded if I
Right,
do it the
yeah.
wrong way?
Right.
Right?
But I think that going back to even what Anne said when, you know, he was like, how are my boys? And she was like, you know, they're really resilient and they've really grown up. And I think that, you know, I'm not a parent, so I'm a child, so maybe this is why I'm saying this. But, you know, part of, I think, being a parent is teaching your kids to actually think for themselves.
Right.
You give them the tools and you give them values to be good people, but at the end of the day, if they can't think for themselves, you're doing them a disservice. So I think that in that moment, Matt had to trust his own instincts, and Matt trusted his instincts, and he, you know, undid the restraints on his father, which was exactly the right thing to do. But at the same time, you know, he keeps wanting to assert himself as a man, and don't get me wrong, yes, is he a boy? But I think it's every, you know, person's right to do that. And instead of kind of quipping about it, I want to say another word, he picked up a gun, for lack of a better word, and went and defended his father and defended his resistance movement. And then when he was told to go back, he went
He
back.
went back. He did.
So I think there are just so many things that they're trying to show us in such a nice, subtle way.
That's
yeah,
true.
and it saved the day. I mean, Matt did, and it was a great little moment between Matt and Tom on the bridge.
It
And,
was.
and then the bridge blew up.
And then it went kaboom.
Well, that was the thing I was thinking is like,
Yeah.
dude, why are you running this way? Just jump over the side and let them blow the bridge. But who blew the bridge? Pope just said, "Screw this."
Now, I do have a question.
You know, the
about
baby's
that.
got to die.
Can't the skitters jump the bridge? Like, if they're in these, like, the mechs are these big robotic, things. They can't just jump that bridge.
Yeah,
Like,
no, they can't. They can't jump the giant explosion though. They were trying to get them close enough to actually be affected by the explosion, not just blow the bridge.
Okay.
They were going to blow up the skitters and the bridge at the same time.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
And I don't think they actually can like have hydraulic jumping powers. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, like,
no,
it just,
no.
the way that they're like slithering on the road, it just
Yeah.
seems like they would be able to jump over that bridge as well.
No.
Because it wasn't that much of a big hole in the center of that bridge. So I just thought maybe they might be able to jump through that.
Well, except the
Oh.
explosion made it a much wider
It made it wider.
expanse.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe they can't get wet.
That could be another reveal.
I bet you
There's
they
a
can't.
lot of electronics. in
Episode
those
3.
things.
I bet you they can't swim. I bet you they can't
Right
swim.
down to the bottom.
That would be great.
Sitting on the bottom of the river.
That would be great.
Before we go any further, I wanted to ask our viewers to please go to iTunes and rate and comment on our show. This is the first time AfterBuzz has done Falling Skies, and so right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All of a sudden, as I was saying that, I went, "Wait, is it?" Okay, sorry. Anyway, so go and rate and comment at iTunes, please. It really helps us out. It just takes a second to do. We prefer good ratings, but we'll take comments of any sort.
Oh,
if you
we
do
like
have
all
suggestions,
comments.
If you have suggestions or comments for us to help us improve our podcast, we really appreciate it. It only takes a minute, and tell a friend as well. So go to iTunes and do that for us. So we've kind of covered a little bit of the aliens, but let's talk a little bit further about the aliens.
Okay.
We have the new ones, the overlords.
The overlords.
Right?
They're more human-like.
And they're more like that sort of Whitley Strieber, the skinny, tall, alien humanoid things that we've been hearing about in the last 30 years or so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're kind
Those
of,
are the ones that scare me, is the ones that are kind of human
yeah.
and can read your mind.
The overlords are
Stay
kind
away.
of dicks.
Yeah.
They kind of are.
Okay. Tell
mean,
us
they-
more,
In
Steve.
what-
What do
in
you
what
think?
way?
That's all I got. No, I
That's
mean, they got a job to do. They got to clean up this crazy planet with
Yeah.
all these crazy guys running around.
Yeah.
But anyway, since they kind of ruined the whole thing anyway,
Well, no. Let's talk
Well,
a little bit
I
about
got
the
some magic tricks I can do for them.
Yeah.
And they're clearly the leaders in this whole thing. I mean, they're
Yeah, they're
ones
the
who are-
brains
they're
behind the
brains
operation, yeah.
everything. They're giving all the messaging. They're telling everybody what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's interesting to see where they're going to develop as well with them being the leaders and going against Tom.
Right. So let's talk about this negotiation and how that's going on. So, okay, first of all, is there more than one overlord?
Definitely.
I think
I
there
believe
are.
there-
Well,
there has to
definitely-
be,
No,
yeah.
definitely, because we actually know that for a fact, because it was maybe episode 8 of season 1 where there was the old lady, like they remember the old lady,
Right.
and literally there were 2 overlords. Like I think that was the first time they saw
Oh,
him.
yes,
Remember
that's
there
right.
was
Oh,
the
when he-
skitter.
and he
they
opened up
approached the skitter, and
Yeah.
that was when they go, oh my god. That's when they first realized, like, oh shit, there's something else that we weren't aware of, and there were 2 of them in that moment. So I mean, there could only be 2, but
Right.
we know that there's not just one.
Right.
I think they're the dominant species. Then you have the mechs, which arguably are other species they've now dominated, harnessed, and now have become skitters. And then the mechs are the skitters that have on some kind of robotic
Machine,
thing,
yeah.
uniform.
Yeah.
But if there's
Armor,
more than
thank
one,
you.
if there's more than one
Overlord.
does that mean that there's someone they have to answer to?
That's a good question.
Yeah, we
I
don't
would
know.
assume that there is, though. I have a feeling that there will be somebody
Yeah,
later
yeah.
down the line.
I mean, because they came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there must be. But so interesting how they communicate with humans through a harnessed child human.
I like that.
That is creepy.
It is very creepy, but I also like how they choreographed it.
Yeah.
Where the girl was doing all the inflection, but the overlord was doing all the
Yes.
That's true.
I thought
The
it was
gesturing.
really the gesturing and the
gesturing.
whole attitude and the way it
agree.
would look and everything. Not say anything. Keeping the girl as a zombie.
Yes.
I agree.
It was a really really clever way to do it, and I thought they did it really well.
Now, why don't you think that why do they only have to focus on the kids? Like, why can't an adult?
That's
be
a
harnessed?
great question. I don't know. I mean, they're more impressionable. They're still growing.
Well, we've got a little taste of it. He said, hate keeps them away, and maybe that's the thing where
As you
if
get
they
older.
don't, if it's not completely formed, they can mess with the mind
Okay.
more. I'm assuming.
I think that's a really good
Impressionable.
possibility.
Plus, just from an emotional thing, it's
Yeah.
like how can you not hate them anymore when they're harnessing kids and
Right,
destroying
exactly.
children? I mean, just as an emotional, visceral level.
Yeah.
That's
That
a
is a
good
good
point, yeah.
But that's a really good question about why it is children. I think we should find
Because
out
dogs
that
can't
out.
talk.
Yeah, I have to find
I mean,
that one.
also
Yeah.
too. I mean, it's I don't know. Maybe I watch way too many like war movies and like sci-fi is my thing. But I think it's always the case. Like you always want the strongest of the species. Like no, regardless, like Matt and I'm
Hal.
blanking. Thank you. They're 16 and 15.
Or
Like
Ben,
they are.
Ben.
Thank you. They are strong men, for lack of a better word. And don't get me wrong, I love the fact that the women in this show are equally
they're
as
badass.
strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that it's the fact that they're impressionable. They're not fully formed, which is theoretically in the whole process that's what they want. They're not fully formed, but yet they're as strong as they're only going to get stronger. They're not going the other way.
That's very
and
true.
presumably in almost every show that you have, when you have a species going somewhere, it's because something's dying out.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You always need youth in order to survive.
Right.
Like, so I think it's just simply saying that
Yeah.
we need youth to
Yeah.
survive and to speak through. I think it's also that subliminal psychology. Can you shoot a child? So think about it. He sent a
Absolutely,
child
right.
to say, come with me.
Right.
Right.
At that moment, he could have taken out his gun and shot her. Right?
That's true, yeah.
At any other given moment, if they sent a child and they were like, oh, come with us or communicating, are you going to be as quick to shoot a harnessed child as you would if it was a harnessed person? And think about it. That's why they had, that's why they went for Ben. That's why they went for Rick, because it's your child.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that it's a little bit different, and it may sound cold and callous, but it's a little bit different to be able to walk away from adults who are harnessed and or shoot adults that are harnessed
That's good.
rather than
Absolutely
children.
true.
I agree.
And
yeah.
and the alien said we've learned a lot from you, and that's what they were doing in Nam. I mean, the Viet Cong knew that the GIs couldn't shoot kids, and so
Yes.
they would wire the kids up and send them
Send
in.
them out, yeah.
So yeah, it's a good point, and it's
diabolical,
diabolical.
but it's very effective.
It's very effective.
Absolutely. So in this negotiation that the Overlord said this is not a negotiation, but
No, it
clearly
isn't.
clearly Tom took it as one. All the references to history, you and I talked about the article that we read in the LA Times, kind of giving an overview to this season. And they talked a lot about how the history and the professor's knowledge was really going to be coming into play. That absolutely the series, it's very clear that they're paralleling the American Revolution. It gets referenced a lot in the first season. They were at JFK High School, home of the Minutemen. This is all happening in Boston.
And I'm from
So-
Boston. Sorry,
Oh,
I had to say that.
Second mass. Second mass.
Does it ring true?
I mean, I think it does. I mean, because at the end of the day, living here in LA, I'm reminded of how young LA is in comparison to Boston. Like when you're actually there are cobblestones and streets that are set up in such a way that you can imagine, that there were revolutionaries running through the streets and that it was, only wide enough for a horse-drawn carriage. So I think that sentimentality of being a fighter, I think even, regardless of kind of your sports affiliation, arguably Boston is known for having the best fans in the history of fans, whether or not we win or lose, because I think that it is a matter of loyalty and family is the most important thing, and that even just the dynamic between Pope and I think his name is Anthony. Like Pope is a bigot, but at the end of the day, not only is he a bigot, he's a convict. So when he learns, he in season 1 says that Anthony has to be a gangbanger, and it turns out that Anthony actually is a police officer. Then he hates him even more for that reason. But it shows that they're able to bond. Why? Because they have a common goal in mind, and that's killing skitters and saving the human race. And I think that's very symbolic of what Boston is, regardless of what team or what side. Bostonians are people from Massachusetts. They're very proud of being from Massachusetts. They're very proud of being Bostonians, and they're very proud of family and value. And that's, I think, what is tied up in this series. And I think that's why it had to be set where it was set.
Well, that makes total sense.
So why is there not any accents?
No, and it's funny that you say that. Well, ironically, I am from Boston, and
you
I
don't have an
have an
accent.
accent. I could
Yeah,
do it, you
but-
know, like have it. I mean, I could do it. It would be inauthentic. But the funny thing is, you know, I think that sometimes, you know, we'd all be laughing at the accent. So sometimes you take away the accents to
Still,
allow for the
don't
acting.
you think like one or two guys should, you know, just be
A
like
couple,
the,
I agree.
Yeah.
the hockey
like no one.
jersey wearing, you
Yeah.
know, I just got out of the bar.
But sometimes
Exactly.
it sounds like Captain Weaver kind of has an
I
accent
agree.
a little bit.
I
I hear
agree.
it a little bit in his
You're
voice
a pretty
sometimes.
dude. Yeah, kind of more from like the Cape,
Yeah.
that region. You
Yeah.
actually have a good ear. Yeah.
I
so
thought he sounded like he was from North Carolina.
Yeah, I thought he was like right out of the military thing. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't
did
know.
not hear Boston in
Yeah, I
him
hear
at
it's
all.
subtle, but I hear
Yeah,
it.
I
Do
hear
you?
I
it
hear
too.
it.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
subtle.
Well, I didn't hear it. But, you know, well, one thing that here is one of my pet peeves on this is a lot of times the music is conflicting with the dialogue.
Yeah,
And it's like, oh man, I get the idea with the music. You don't have to lay it in. Dialogue is always more important.
amen, brother.
Yep.
Well,
So-
you know, I kind of like the music when the mechs are coming around. I love that sound.
Oh, absolutely.
I love that sound. Like every time I hear it, I'm like, oh man, the mechs are coming. You know.
But here's the problem: when you have okay, we're getting on the horse, you know, dun, 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 and so the music starts amping up because the action's coming. Well, there's a lot of dialogue going back and forth that, you know, you want to know what they're saying. You want to
Yeah.
know where the characters are. It's kind of important, or they wouldn't drop it in. So.
Yeah.
It's a lot of shows do it, and it always drives
I
me
know.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's
I know,
like,
me
come
too.
on, drop the music
Me
just
too.
a little bit.
Of course, you are a writer. Oh, you're a musician too, though. So I
Yeah,
suppose.
I know. It's an interior.
Interior
Interior battle.
battle that
battle.
you have.
But
It
you
was-
were going to ask, we were talking, you know, right before we came to the studio, and you had a question, Derrial, about the messages, like why some people can't hear the messages.
Oh right. Well, I was saying like, you know, it's just if they're so in the future, right? And the intelligence that they have is far beyond what we have. Why can't they hear if a human is approaching their ships, or why can't they sense anything? It's like they're clueless. It's, you know, like with the season finale with Tom blowing up the spacecraft.
Right.
Even with the way it started off today with Ben being able to take pictures and get close up to the ship. How
And-
do they not intercept that at all?
And Ben could sense that there were skitters nearby.
Yeah.
But the skitters can't
sense
sense that
him.
humans
That's
are nearby.
It's a little bit of a, you
Or
know,
even him, who's a hybrid,
yeah.
so to
and
speak, at the
even if
moment.
they couldn't just sense humans, at least they should be able to sense like Ben and Rick.
Rick.
You know, so
That was one of those it was just one of those moments that I was watching going, you could have made it better. And first of all, they send him across because they don't know if there's an ambush.
right.
Right,
So the water's not an issue.
right,
You know, it's like it's invigorating.
right.
Well, he's coming in doing the, you know, 200 meter, you know, just I'm like, dude, nice and easy, just go smooth. And then, you know, with the flashlight all over the place, I'm going, if there's an ambush,
They're going to get
you're
you.
gonna
dead.
get you,
I
yeah.
mean, you made a bunch of noise, and then
That's
they've got the skitter that's not dead yet.
Right.
Right.
It's still functioning. and
kills
moving.
him.
He kills it.
Yeah, why can't they? How is there not a beacon going, hey, I'm hurt?
Yeah, they're
come get
very
me."
laid back and you know, laxated about people approaching their ships. I mean, you would think that they would have an army
Sure,
of
surrounding.
skitters and mechs just on standby at all times
Yeah.
to make
But
sure that no one approaches
Especially if they've
the
been
ship.
fighting. I mean, they've already had a season of fighting, so they should have a pretty good idea of what the capabilities.
But I still think though that it's like on both sides, it's a lack of respect for your enemy. And at the end of the day, other than the end of the season when they finally, like, you know, think about it, the end of the season, that's when they were, I'm gonna get the chemical wrong, but they figured out the uranium bullets that were able to go through their
Right.
armor.
Right.
And
Right.
they, you know, had the 50K gun at the end, you know, when Tom shot and actually, you know, hurt the ship. But up until that point, human beings have been like a non-factor. Like they've been a nuisance, but they actually haven't done any harm. So now, you know, we switch a little bit. I still think they're kind of thinking, no, we have this under control. Like there's no way that you guys could do anything to hurt us because you don't know how we don't know how we work. You
Right.
just found out that there were overlords.
That's
Like
true,
up until
yeah.
this point, like you didn't even realize that you could be shooting a skitter that could be your wife.
Right.
Like
Right.
they're thinking to themselves like you're still a non-factor. And I think that more importantly, the communication, it can only go one way. It literally is almost like when you have like computer jargon, like it has to like go from the top and then down and splinter.
Mm-hmm.
And as we learned in the previous season, each skitter almost had a little family. So they were
Right.
the main source of communication. So
Right.
when you take basically that child from the Skitter family, there's no communication. So even though the beacon's going this way, they were responsible for communicating back and forth with the child. So that's why Ben can still hear, because he can still pick up the wavelength, but he can't communicate back because he would have to communicate through his Skitter.
Right.
In the same way that the overlords have to communicate through the children. It's literally, it's just like, it's the vessel,
vessel.
and the way that it goes.
Now, speaking of the children, they kind of touched on this in the show, and I had wanted to bring this back up too. How do they procreate? I mean, I know we
I
know
remember
we,
I wrote
we
that down,
know
too.
that they're revealing that these harnesses are changing the kids into
Mm-hmm.
skitters, but what sex are they? Are they hermaphrodites? Like what
Right.
well,
Well,
like
that's
what's
the
going
conversation
on?
they were having.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they were
like-
getting ready to go.
Yeah, Maggie and Hal were talking about,
Yeah.
which was also kind of foreplay for the two of them.
Oh
A little
yeah,
bit.
Let's
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about sex. No, let's talk about sex.
right. Yeah, they had a lot of fun with that one.
Talking
yeah.
about sex, baby.
But okay, but this is gonna be like totally on a completely different subject, but
Go.
it was related.
Go.
I actually like the fact that everyone looks tired.
And
Like
dirty.
Yeah, because I
Oh,
think that in the first
what-
season, because even in this is gonna sound like a girly thing, but it makes sense to me. Even the fact that Margaret, like, you can see like 6
Yes!
inches of her roots.
I wanted to talk about that too.
And it's
She's
relevant.
not blonde
no, and
anymore.
This is,
Did you
and this
notice
is,
that,
no,
Steve?
but this is relevant. This is relevant because it shows that they're making it authentic. You are in the middle
Right.
of war and chaos.
Right.
You don't have. There is nowhere to get
There-
your highlights
there's no
done.
time for pretty.
No,
The only
no,
thing,
but
yeah,
you-
I can just look at that and go, man, they must smell.
I
Right, you
know.
remember
Well,
how
Pope,
Pope
Pope made
said
that
about
comment.
references,
Pope said that, yeah.
And
They
but
do.
the beard and everything is just like,
Yeah.
just as the actors, it must drive them crazy. Oh, good, yeah, I gotta keep this
Awesome.
continual
Right.
3-day
Noah
growth.
Wiley was full shaved when I
Oh.
saw him last week. So
Yeah,
just
well,
FYI.
they found a razor.
Last season we were pretty much always at the high school.
Yeah.
And now we're nomads. We're
Yeah.
we're moving, and they were saying in the LA Times article that they're moving the entire season, and so it's going to be hell for the crew and hell for the
sure.
actors because pretty much nighttime all the time, and they're shooting in British Columbia where the weather is not so awesome. And so, one of the actors, I think it was Moon, what's her name? Bloodgood?
Bloodgood.
Moon Bloodgood was talking about how it is a lot like the dynamic that's happening on set, where we're, in the show, we're kind of irritating each other, but we kind of need each other, and that starts to happen in reality too. But that's another one of the big differences between season 1 and season 2 is how it was, a little more civilized in a way.
Yep.
And season 2 just not so much civilized. And in fact, the way they closed the LA Times article was they said the first season was a lot of hope, and the second season there's a hell of a lot less hope. So we're in for a bit of a wild ride.
A wild ride.
Yeah. What,
Your
Steve?
comment about the lack of respect between the thing, and it really, if you think about it, that's pretty much what the British did.
Right.
Completely.
And
And
it's a nice
underestimating.
parallel. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like well, these guys are just they're a pain. Let's just get rid of these guys. Let's just get rid of these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I think,
parallel.
and I think that's why even this new introduction of the character Jamal, we haven't figured out quite
Right.
what his name is yet, but I think that it brings it in because it shows that we have to be inquisitive and we have to be thinking, we have to think on our feet. And they said, okay, they're heat censored. How do we get around the heat sensors? And he's like, I don't know. And we figure it out. Like, I think that, again, drawing the parallel back from the British and the American, like the reason that we won is because we thought on our feet and we adapted on the resources and the terrain that we had here. And I think that's what it doesn't matter how much you study a species, you can't study exactly what I'm going to do at this exact moment.
That's right.
Because
Sure.
you don't know what 3 people are put together. And obviously he's either an engineer or a mechanic.
Yeah.
But obviously has some
Yeah.
high level,
Yeah.
skill set. And that's why his brain is able to work in the way that it is, even in terms of the bridge. He was like, okay, no. He's like, we don't need to fix it.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
We just need to patch it up and move forward and keep it going. And so presumably in the same way that they thought they had to fix it, the aliens would think, oh, I know what they're going to do. No, you don't.
Right.
And I think that's what we have going for us this season is that they've got a taste of victory, but at the end of the day, they're like, we're still going to
We're
fight.
still gonna fight.
Yeah, and they may have all the technology and all the tools and all the toys, but we've got our smarts and they can't figure us out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they clearly need us. I'm including
Yeah.
me in the second mask.
Yeah,
but
no,
They,
I
they clearly need
completely
us.
agree. On you.
So.
Yeah, I agree. Or else they would have bombed just like someone I think said. It could have been Anthony or someone. They would have literally just dropped a nuclear level bomb on the entire Earth.
Yep.
Moved in and it would have
taken
been
it
done
all.
with it. But obviously,
Taken
just
it
like
all.
you said, they somehow need human beings.
Yep.
But I have to say, I love that Jamil, his character when he was hiding at the end and Captain Weaver walked up to him. That was like my favorite scene in that show. He's like hiding. That would have been me. I'm like, okay, I'll push it, but I'll be over here like, hiding out in the corner. I love that scene.
But next to the TNT.
Next to the boxes of TNT.
Right. Exactly.
I don't mind the C4.
Yeah.
Right.
We are running long because we have so much to talk about. So we have to go to commercial, and then we will be back with some predictions.
All right.
Hey there, good buddies. The handle's Woolly Bear. I'm a truck driving man, but I'm not that old school kind of truck driving man, no. I like to listen to podcasts while I'm driving through these great United States of ours. And my favorite podcasts in the world are from AfterBuzz TV. And why? Because AfterBuzz TV is like a post-game wrap-up show for all your favorite TV shows, like Jersey Shore, Dancing with the Stars, Mad Men, and a whole truckload more. I like listening to my Gossip Girl podcast, catching up with all my fellow fans and getting all the latest news and gossip. No, I got some strong opinions. And AfterBuzz TV lets me share those opinions with thousands of other listeners. Woo-wee, what a feeling. I used to doze off on those lonely stretches of road. And don't worry, I got the cruise control. But now I'm wide awake and listening to all the AfterBuzz TV goodness. Check them out, give them a holler, and tell them the old Woolly Bear sent you.
And we're back. We're back.
We're back.
So I want to go into predictions, but I just do want to say real quickly that Falling Skies had its biggest cable debut for TNT of the year with 5.9 million viewers, and it became TNT's highest rated show, won a Critics' Choice Award. So clearly this one's here for a while, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, because you and I tend to watch shows that get canceled, Steve.
Oh, you need to come on my ship. I'm known for being on shows that are absolutely amazing and definitely get season 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Well,
Hi,
we were saying
Gladiator.
earlier too that we've noticed the change in just the way that the look of the show is
Yeah.
from the first season. I mean, they've really, gone all the way out with this, like the explosives, the guns,
Yeah.
Okay, but there's a
The
part of
budget
me.
is
There's a
increased.
part of me that doesn't want the budget to increase because that's the mistake that people make. Season 1 was great. Why? Because just even like you said, when you're overlaying the music too much, it's about the story. And at the end of the day, I think that the reason that, you take the comparison between Terra Nova and this, Terra Nova had a huge budget on all these effects and all this stuff, right?
Yep.
This was just a great show with great characters and a great storyline. Keep it that way.
So you want them to keep it kind of
Keep it that way. Give
gritty.
more money to the actors and to the crew, but don't
writers.
and to the writers and to the crew.
But that's the thing. Increasing the budget, if the heart of the story stays, if we can stay with Tom and he's got to stay true to love, and we're staying with Ben and he's got to fight the hate and all that stuff. Well, if that means that we get to see a worm get pulled out of an eye because we got the budget,
brilliant.
that was.
See?
if you
That was
use the
brilliant.
budget,
Yes.
if the story, if the human story stays. And I think that was a problem with Terra, not to get way off, but I don't think there was much of a human story in that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So what do you have any predictions for next
this is
week?
my first time.
And now,
I love that sound effect.
TV prediction.
They gave us some big sort of teases. 'Cause
Yeah,
they teased
yeah.
the entire
Gosh.
season.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of those things that was a little bit like Justified, where you have to kind of pick and choose who's going to die throughout this season, because they've shown a lot of people and they're letting a lot of people get known. My prediction is, I think.
And Graham Yost, same executive producer.
Oh, is
so
it?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, because there's some characters that are very similar that they're starting to show.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna my prediction is that, and it's the easy one, that Ben is going to have a lot of struggles and challenges, and there's going to be a real force pulling on him.
Well, literally, his spikes start to glow.
Yeah.
So there's that we have
Yeah.
going for us.
And I think that Pope is going to start gunning for him.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Derrial, do you have any?
Similar to what Steve was saying. I think that Ben is definitely going to have some challenges coming up. I think they're going to reveal a lot more of a darker side, kind of what I was saying earlier to him. I have a feeling that he's going to be in a lot of communication with the skitters and the overlords.
So there's going to be more of that sort of good guy, bad guy. We don't know where he is.
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think
thing.
he's going to kind of play in the middle there, and so I think that's one of my predictions. The other, Obviously, Tom's not going anywhere. So,
No, clearly.
So that's that's a give me. But
Yeah.
I think that Hal is going to become a bigger role and leader in the group as a whole.
Yeah, I like that thought, and I think it's a really good choice if they do go that way,
Yeah.
because Hal's an interesting character. He really
is.
He's complicated for a 17-year-old.
He's complicated. With all those hormones going on.
What about you, Miss?
I would agree with everything that's been said before, but then I also think like there has to be some form of a mutiny. There has to be a split. Like there's no way. Like this little ragtag band of resistance, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but like there has to be a split, and it has to be probably Pope or someone else because something's just not gelling. Like you know what I mean? Because even though they've touched upon it before with Weber and Tom, how you basically have the military background and the intellect or the intelligent individual, something's going to have to happen. And I think allegiance are going to be made, and it's going to cross family lines.
Yeah.
Presumably.
Pope has already pulled a gun on
Yeah.
Captain Weaver,
He
and,
does.
and
We
Weaver
just said
said,
every episode.
Yeah, I'm like,
Oh, okay.
I'm like, Pope
All right.
pulls a gun on everybody.
All right,
It's
well-
just saying that they need him, and I think though the difference is somehow they're gonna meet up with other people. There has to be more people. We haven't come across that many people. They're
No.
gonna find more people, and there's gonna be a split.
Now, here's the interesting thing, though. Tom has not told them what the negotiation was.
Right.
He hasn't said, and I thought he was going to do that. I thought he was going to say, "Look, here's what's been presented.
But
if
I think
you're
it was
interested."
Weaver was like, just get better.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, that might be the thing where people go, "Listen, that's a better deal. That's a better deal," and that might be
That's
right.
whoa, yes.
Yeah,
That's a
that
good-
might
That
be
would
what
be
you're talking
interesting.
That would be
about.
interesting.
I would like
Yeah.
to see that.
Where
I
there's-
would like to
now
see
you
that.
have that thing about we fight or we go on a reservation. You know,
Yeah.
how do
Well, because there obviously are people who have chosen that in season 1. We saw that. We saw
Yes.
that with the Sanctuary.
Yes.
Where basically they were tricking and hoarding human beings and basically selling them off to the aliens for lack of a better word.
Yep.
And you had the other people, the old lady who you could say that her little apartment was
With
her
the tea.
own,
Mhm.
safe
Her-
zone.
right.
So I agree. Perfect. It's going
That's,
to be
and
on a
that would
larger
be
scale.
interesting. That would be really interesting.
That would be
to see.
interesting. For sure. And what are your predictions as well?
I don't really have a lot, especially because I'm 4th on the list of talking about predictions. But we did see that Rick is still alive.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so that's, they kind of teased that a little bit with Anne putting the photos up of
photo
all
on
the
their locker,
lost.
yeah.
And Rick was one of them. They said he's dead. And she goes, well, yeah, pretty much. But then we
far as I know.
see he's not dead. And so, but, I don't think that's going to be, it's going to be an interesting character situation, but he doesn't belong to anybody anymore. He
Right.
doesn't have parents anymore. He doesn't have, so he's a kid I would kill.
And at the end of
So
last
there.
season, he kind of took on the more human. We saw his more human side when he cried and he was upset about his father dying.
Yes.
And he wasn't so robotic. So now it's going to be interesting to see kind of where he transitions in that next part. So.
And if Justified has taught us anything,
Yes,
that, if Graham Yost has anything to say about it, no one save for 2 or 3 characters is safe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
He's
so
got
true.
no qualms about killing off the people. You go, are you kidding? No.
But can I say something? I like that. I don't.
Oh,
I don't,
yeah.
I don't. I don't
know,
like it in
yeah.
the standpoint that I get attached to characters, but I
No.
like that in terms of the fact that it keeps you guessing. Because I think there is a certain aspect that if you watch TV, you start to figure things out.
Of course,
Yeah.
and
'cause
that's
audiences are
not
smart.
that's not fun.
And
you
that
should go, oh my god,
Yeah.
Like,
That-
that's
and-
great TV.
Yeah.
that also explains why they're so stingy with the facts. And
It is.
everything.
That's
and
right.
Yeah.
So
It keeps us
yeah.
on our toes.
That's
Yeah.
a great guy to have behind the wheel on this
indeed.
car.
Him and Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
We
Mr.
like it.
Spielberg.
So I think the,
Steve, where can we find you,
You can
in the
find
world?
me at Bottomley Steve, also SaveTheSingoff.com.
.com. Derrial?
You can tweet me at Derrial Christon. That's DerrialChriston.
And you, Miss Sophia?
you can find me at. You can actually follow me on Twitter, Sofia Stanley, and that's SOFIA, and then Stanley like Stanley Cup, LA King.
Yeah, hey, LA King.
And you can find me
Miss
at
Boston girl.
Hey, Mr.
With no accent.
Hello, at Tamara Berg on Twitter. Thank you very much. Or also tamaracentral.com is my website. So join us next week for another episode of Falling Skies. We will see you then.
All right, everybody.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you
later.
later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.